You're listening to The Low and No Show, a podcast that tells the inspiring stories from brands and the founders. My name is Johnny Stevens, the founder of Better Without, the app that helps people discover low and no drinks. I'm sitting down with guests to hear their stories, learn about their products, and the lessons they've learned. Hello and welcome to another episode. I'm here today with Charlie. Charlie is from Freestar. Freestar is an award-winning beer. I'm delighted to understand the story today, understand a bit more about what they're doing within the market. I'm fascinated to hear about all the versions that they've created over the last 2 years that they put on their website. So welcome in, Charlie. Hello.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Johnny, and congratulations to you. Really impressed with what you're building. Super useful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, incredible what you've done in a short period of time.
Perfect. No, thank you very much, and it's delighted to have you on board, and looking forward to obviously working with you on the app. So, talk to me a bit more about the product and the brand.
So I guess, I'll give you the I'll try and truncate the story a little bit, but I think it's useful to start at the beginning. So first of all, my name's Charlie, as you know. I started Freestar the journey started about 3 years ago with two really good mates of mine, Eddie and Felix. We were working for late stage startups at the time, and getting pulled in different directions, and just felt like at the time in particular, that there weren't there was a lack of really great alcohol-free options. It's changed a lot in the past 3 years, and there are really some fantastic options now. But at the time, it was kind of really still the preserve of like the big breweries that were pushing out range extensions of their brands, and there was just a lack of, I guess, interesting products, but also brands that kind of stood out and gave people something positive to latch onto and to get excited about if they weren't drinking alcohol. And I think that first insight for us was both on the product and on the brand side was the starting point. And it was a midweek night for us, and we were had work the next day. We didn't really want to be drinking alcohol, but we wanted to have a good time. We wanted to enjoy each other's company, and just felt like there was this need for something different. That was the starting point. And so we decided that in order to do that and to deliver a better product and a better brand, that we needed to kind of do something pretty different. So starting with production, we decided to really go a different way. Everyone else, as you may know, starts by brewing alcohol brewing beer, and then removes the alcohol through different de-alcoholization processes. Some use lazy yeast and stop fermentation, and actually suffocates the development of alcohol in beer, but that ends up being low alcohol beer. But basically everyone goes through a de-alcoholization process, which can be quite damaging to the flavor and end up with quite a metallic taste. Again, these processes have been improved, but we felt like it would be more interesting, it would be better, more appropriate for an alcohol-free beer, an alcohol-free drink, to be built from the ground up without ever taking anything out of it. And so we started out on this process, hadn't been done before, and took us about the better part of 2 years to actually finally develop an alcohol-free beer, which was blended and not brewed, and therefore never had any alcohol in it in the first place. And then on the brand side, we really wanted to build a brand that was full of energy, full of positivity for young people, for this kind of aspirational moments in the evening where young people are choosing not to drink for positive reasons, rather than what can sometimes be seen as a slightly negative take on the category, which is, look, you can't quote unquote have the real thing, but here's something that's like a compromise on a full strength beer because maybe you're working or because you're driving or whatever it might be. So that's kind of the brand side is about really sort of building a brand, a company and a brand that's sort of reflective of the positive reasons why people are choosing to drink less now.
Nice. Well, brilliant. Thank you. And it's, I mean, I love your branding, what you've done, and it stands out. I think that's the one thing that, you know, it's very positive. And I think one thing I've noticed is, you talk about not missing out, and I think that's a big thing. You know, people, for whatever reason that they aren't drinking, it's so important for them to actually feel like they are having a good product, they are having a good experience. And I noticed, like, on your website, you've got the glasses that you can have with it, and there's so much science behind, glassware, and actually properly experiencing the beer for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, which is that, look, if you're out in the evening, whether you may be at a sort of a pub, or you may be at a restaurant, you may be at a gig, or whatever it is, if you're choosing not to drink alcohol, it shouldn't mean that you have to have a bad time. You should still have the equivalent of, if you look at alcoholic beer, there's like an amazing array of like options and different tastes and flavors and brands that really says a lot about you as a person. If I say to you, this person's a Guinness drinker, you probably have in your mind's eye like what that person might be. Maybe it's sort of rugby, or it's quite sort of hardy individual, I don't know. Or on the equivalent side of on the other side, maybe it's like a Beavertown drinker, and that says something about them. And within alcohol free, we really see it that the category will evolve to have the same thing. And you need so that individuals that aren't drinking alcohol but still want to have a good time can identify with the brands that speak to them, and that do so for positive reasons. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do with that.
Amazing. And when you launched the beer, was the aim that you would come up with a beer that actually was almost targeted for everyone, in terms of regardless of whether they were interested in no and low or not? Or were you actually going, we want to create a great beer, specifically when people aren't drinking it? Have you decided whether actually you were keen to almost create an option that if people who do drink actually this is an interesting brand for them to try?
Yeah, I think that's another really interesting one, because for us, there's this sober curious movement which has got a lot of press. Everyone's very sort of knows it well, which is kind of preaches a slightly all or nothing approach to drinking alcohol, or to not drinking alcohol, and it's quite absolutist in its sort of philosophy. And that is great, and we definitely sort of want to support that for those that are looking for that. But I think what's really interesting about the movement is that, and especially a sort of generational shift, is that there are so many people now that are actually they're just kind of like flexitarians, like you would get with sort of vegans and eating meat, but you just want to pick and choose more the nights that you want to be drinking alcohol and the nights that you don't. Or maybe it's on a night and you want to have one that's 0%, and then the next drink might be 5%, who knows. But the idea being that you choose the product for the moment, you choose the ABV really for the moment that you feel like at that time, that fits that sort of need state, rather than feeling this kind of peer pressure to be doing something at one moment or not, and just really giving people those options.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, because I think that's one thing, I've always said, I personally gave up alcohol, but I'm not anti-alcohol or anything. And actually, why, I mean, hopefully when hospitality does open, why there isn't that need of going, okay, well, I'm driving, I can, if they want to have one, or actually I'm driving, what other options are there? And that's, I mean, when did you actually sort of go to market with the product? When was that?
So we went to market with the product really sort of 18 months ago, I guess. So it was about June 2019, and had about 9 months before the pandemic hit. But yeah, I mean, for us, even since then, number of really good alcohol-free beers have come to market. It's a massively growing space, and we kind of welcome that, because it gives people that choice. And there are going to be some that work for others, work for some, and some that work for others. And that can only be a good thing. But yeah.
And you're right. And I think it's I say that to a lot of people that alcohol-free drinks, there's so much variety that yes, someone may not like beer, but there's so many other options. But when you look specifically in terms of beer, in terms of alcoholic beer, everyone has their preferences. And when you flip that into no and low, actually you're still going to have those preferences. People will like a hoppier beer, or a sour beer, or a lighter beer. And naturally you're going to have those. So as you say, the more options you have, it's only going to be good for the category.
Exactly. I think that's sort of, for us, that was quite important. You mentioned like differentiation in terms of standing out on shelf, and with quite a sort of bold color. But I think having that differentiation on product taste as well is important for us, because if you're just the same as everyone else, you're not sort of it's harder to really sort of put a ring fence around you. So for us, we thought it was necessary to have a product that was sort of flavorful and has a slight sort of citrus edge to it, but it's quite light, well, refreshing, nice, really nice, like summer beer that maybe people that traditionally get put off by a heavier or more traditional sort of maltier lagery taste would like, and therefore you can sort of start to really grow the market rather than competing in a smaller area.
Yeah. And in terms of your, I suppose, presence at the moment, obviously you started June 2019, had a bit of hospitality before COVID hit. I guess most of the business has very much shifted to your online presence.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously COVID, hit everyone in the industry for 6, but I mean, we're lucky in some ways. Obviously, as you say, we can sell online. We are also lucky in that we have listings at the moment with Ocado. Obviously, sell on Amazon. We're listed in Sainsbury's. We're listed in Planet Organic and a few others. So we have a bit of retail as well as online. But I think, for us, online is great, and we've invested in it. We've got our own web shop, freestar.co, but it's not, it doesn't make up for having a presence in the on-trade, being able to activate, being able to be in the types of aspirational places where your target consumer is going in the evening to have a good time, and sort of being there for them. I think that in real life experience is has a much deeper effect on the individual, on the consumer, and builds that loyalty. So online is great, but we can't wait for things to open up and to be able to get in front of.
No, you, me, and everyone. I think it's as soon as it can open, I think it will get a lot of support, and I think it'll be exciting. It's a really interesting one, because I have a view that everyone has been able to get very good drinks online, but and drink them at home, and I think it's opened up, especially it's probably helped the low and no category in terms of grow, because people have been able to try different drinks, get better exposure. What I'm really intrigued about is, as soon as hospitality opens again, actually are the consumers going to be disappointed, because they'll go back into hospitality and the same drinks that they were drinking 12, 18 months ago is still there, because the hospitality hasn't moved on.
And I guess we won't know the answer to that until hospitality does open up. But I feel like hospitality is in varying ways reacting to this this trend. There are some groups, particularly sort of in casual dining, and also some pub groups that are sort of ahead of the curve, are always going to be the ones to try new things, and are seeing this sort of movement and the desire for alcohol-free really sort of pick up. And even when we were going into market before the pandemic, it was still everyone had an alcohol-free beer, and 12 months on, that just has only accelerated. This movement is only picking up steam. It's not going anywhere. And so being able to actually cater to all of your customers is as important now as it ever was, if not more so.
No, definitely. And I think for me, it's making sure hospitality captures all the options that are out there, not just having a lager and that's it, that's all that they offer for low and no alcohol free. Is actually going, how can we cater for a much wider set of people? And I think, as you say, that will come. I mean, hospitality are very good. Hospitality is the whole idea of welcoming people, and it will naturally start on the top down. The top restaurants starting to innovate in terms of different cocktails with whether it's different spirits and as you say, bringing in beers. What's your view in terms of sort of beer on draft? Is Freestar available on draft yet or not?
Yeah, we are. We've got a few draft accounts, within sort of a few pubs within the Cirrus pub group. So they're sort of Southwest London, more
nice.
Besan and Chelsea, and one or two others. So I mean, we've got a sort of foothold in there, and something to build on. That is obviously where you want to be, to have that sort of ritual of drinking a pint. Makes people feel like they're really a part of it. There's no sort of feeling of the odd one out or anything like that. And then to get that sort of real estate on the bar as well, of having the sort of tap branded up is just awesome. And so for us, that's amazing. It's obviously incredibly competitive. And that's the challenge, particularly with pubs, is that it's a zero-sum game. There's only so much real estate up there that you can go for, and so to try and convince pubs that that's a necessary step for them to take is a challenge. But there are more and more they're sort of getting it, and sort of edging away forward from there. But it's definitely a focus.
I definitely think it will start in London, and that's what's happening. I mean, when hospitality, once the London pubs really start to adopt it, and it will get to the point, and I'm a firm believer it will get to the point where actually naturally there is just always one option on draft, and that's it.
I mean, to be honest, like, I think if you were going to fast forward 5-10 years, hopefully not 10, hopefully 5, I don't know, imagine walking into this sort of, we call it like AB various is our sort of term for it. But, you imagine walking into a bar in the same way that, right, so 10 years ago, you'd have maybe one vegetarian option on a menu, and it would sit there, and maybe it's like a corn burger or something, I don't know what. It's kind of always looked at like that, and people wouldn't get excited about it. But now, vegetarianism, veganism is just so interlaced with a menu, you don't even notice it. I mean, you just pick and choose depending on how you feel, all of that, and it's so normalized. We think that you will go in the same direction with pubs, which is that you'll walk up to a bar and you just have a whole variety of ABVs in terms of the drinks that are available to you, and you just pick and choose what you want. And hopefully there's a lot more than one, because on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night or whenever it is, people frankly don't really want to be getting drunk. They just want to have a nice drink with their mates, normally, and then you sort of cater for those different things. I don't know, I think that's what we see as like the vision that we have, is that you have that complete sort of immersion of alcohol free with the rest of alcohol options.
No, definitely. And you're right, there's a lot of crossover between sort of vegan and vegetarianism through alcohol free, and I think they're both movements that aren't going away. They, as you say, it was very heavily adopted, and it took time, but actually now the options are really good quality. And I think the great thing is, in some ways, is the products are already there. So the great products are already being produced. It's just the hospitality needs to take them on board, adopt more. And I think that's
Yeah,
in some ways
yeah,
where the great thing.
there's a slight, I mean, the statistics and the number of people like exploring no-low now is huge.
Yeah.
I think the Guardian came out with an article not long ago. I think it's about sort of over 65% of people now have tried no-low or, you know, or sort of occasionally dip into the category, which is just, you know, really impressive. I think for us, yes, you know, you have this amazing selection of alcohol-free options, and you have a really pretty impressively, the consumers were the ones to drive this, which is kind of odd. Like often it's the brands. If you think about like Oatly, it takes Oatly to get people to sort of change their behavior around, you know, drinking regular milk and dairy, or, you know, what they have in their coffees, rather than the other way around. Whereas with alcohol free, it was kind of the people decided that they wanted to lead a more of an AB various lifestyle and cut down and moderate more. And then you had this explosion of products, which I think will just keep going and evolve in different ways. And you're right, it's like it's hospitality in the middle that needs to kind of catch up and just join the dots. Because it's, you kind of got everything you need to make this, to give it the platform that will just allow it to really bed in for the next few years.
Absolutely.
The UK is really like a world leader in this category.
It is. It's amazing how, I mean, I was speaking to all different brands around the world and you know, different bars and different, you know, all types of people, and it is amazing how, as you say, the UK is really on the world stage for low and no, and you know, I think that naturally is someone like Seedlip, someone like Brewdog, you know, really the sort of pioneers originally in terms of bringing the category forward and really showcasing the name and what can be done.
No, exactly. I mean, there was some, you know, actually having big brewers like, well, I suppose first of all Beck's Blue, but you know, now you have Heineken Zero that has done such a job in kind of getting the category out there to really the mass market in a way in which just startups can't. We just don't have the budgets. But the fact that, you know, Heineken Zero was sponsoring the Champions League, and it's now, you're going to see James Bond drinking it in the next movie. It's just sort of, it would have been, you'd have got some very weird looks if you said that a few years ago. People wouldn't have believed you. But now it's, you know, it just shows how far we come, and it does a lot of the work for startups like Freestar to then come in behind and show differentiation. So
definitely, no, it works really well, and I think you talk about sort of as Heineken as an example, you know, I think aligning with sport makes a lot of sense. You know, I think naturally people who are doing sport, you know, tend to looking at sort of a healthier lifestyle, and it's really good that you know, that is what they're looking at. And you know, like their thing with Formula One, you know, don't drink and drive. Absolutely the right message.
Exactly. There's that, and there's also the sort of, you know, there's those midweek Champions League games, isn't it, where it's like a Wednesday night or Tuesday night, you want to sort of have a rewarding, flavorful drink that's not sweet like a Coca-Cola, or whatever. You don't want to be drinking water, but you probably, well, maybe you don't want to be drinking alcohol. So that's the kind of, it is a perfect occasion for it.
Yeah, no, it fits really well. And just moving on to some of the things, so as a company, you know, I've looked very much in terms of some of the ethical things you do, and you talk about on your website that sort of CO2 reduction, and I noticed the mentoring scheme, and like really just genuinely wanting to make a difference. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks. So I suppose like for us, you know, we're sort of three really good mates, so I mentioned at the beginning. I mean, we fundamentally want to build a company that we're really proud of. And the good thing about starting your own business is that, you know, for the first time, you can actually sort of pick and choose what kind of a company, what kind of a business you build. And for us, mentoring has always been like a big part of what we do personally. First of all, it was through the Princess Trust, and did that for a number of years. And I think more recently, you may have seen that we've started the hotline, really for sort of young people that are going through the sort of worst of it, I think, when it comes to this employment crisis that we're in. But giving them a sort of a bit of mentorship and advice throughout such a difficult time. That's something that just is sort of kind of intuitive and natural for us to do. And what's great is that not only have we seen really strong interest in it from young people in particular, but also we've had a lot of other business leaders and individuals come forward and volunteer their time as well, that have such a wide range of experiences, so that it's not a Freestar thing. It's more just providing that kind of that needed mentoring, I guess. On the CO2 part, we, again, going back to being the company that we want to build, from the outset, from day one, before we'd sold a can or a bottle of beer, we wanted to build a highly sustainable company. So we knew that actually producing beer is quite wasteful in terms of different resources that it takes up. We knew that if we could try and do it in a way that blended rather than brewed, it would provide a really strong foundation to build Freestar into a much more sustainable company than the rest of the competition. So our production process, again, no one else makes beer in the way in which we do, uses 90% less CO2, 80% less water, 80% less energy, 70% less waste is generated from it. And that, from the outset, was used not as a sort of end goal, but just as a foundation for us to make all aspects of Freestar really sustainable, and both from an environmental point of view, but also in terms of the social impact that we have. And I suppose on that, the most important thing is that we decided really early on, again, before we sold anything, to become a B Corp. And a B Corp is, for those that don't know, is a benefit corporation. Basically means that you look beyond just making profit in terms of the impact that your business has. And it basically judges your business, or grades your business on 4 different areas. Very holistic approach to assessing the impact that you have. And that, for us, is the most objective, meaningful way that we can hold ourselves to account and be the kind of business that we want to be. So we're the only alcohol-free beer in the world to certify as a B Corp, which we're very proud of.
Amazing. Well. You should be, and that's everything about what you're doing and everything you just said is just very admirable. I think it, as you say, you're able to, because you're running your own business, you're able to do things that you're passionate about and drive the change. And it's people like you and businesses that we need people like that to be able to drive change and actually make that agenda really a core part of your business. And at the end of the day, at night, you can go to bed knowing that you're trying to make a difference, which is so important.
Thanks. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think for us, it's just sort of about being honest, transparent, real, and just sort of walking the walk as well as talking the talk. And I suppose we fundamentally believe that businesses need to change and evolve. There needs to be a much stronger link between society at large and the business world, rather than the sort of money trumps everything approach that we probably had in the 20th century. There's amazing businesses that we admire, that we sort of learn a lot from, so we're definitely following in the footsteps. But
brilliant. No, that's great. And I encourage any I'd love to speak to you separately about the mental side and how how I can help, and also anyone that any of the brands that I work with, anyone to get involved. And as you say, it's a very hard time for young people, and anything, even just a phone call and how people can help is so important.
Absolutely. If there's anyone that wants to help, please contact us at more@freestar.com. But yeah, we're always taking on new mentors as well as mentees.
Brilliant. No, we will promote that. And finally, where do people find you? Where's the best way to try the product?
So people can try the products through our website, freestar.co. Otherwise, we're available on Amazon, Ocado. We're available Sainsbury's, various Sainsbury's, not all of them, unfortunately, as well as the likes of Planet Organic and Farm Drop, depending on where you are. But Amazon has got the best coverage, obviously, across the whole UK. As well as our website. And then just to finish off, in terms of our distribution in the on-trade, pubs, bars and restaurants, that is probably a bit early to say.
Yeah, they can find it on the Better Without app. That's how they can find it when it's open. No, that's great. Well, I've really enjoyed our chat, and thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks so much, Johnny. It's great to chat. I really appreciate you having me on.
No worries. Thank you.